Good morning or good afternoon, MLB Pro family. My name is Scott Kessler. I'm your Sacramento A's GM, and today I'm joined with, oh, wait a minute, nobody, because Rob thought it was more important to move than come on and talk baseball. But I hope he's having a good time. Hope it's not too hot for you, Rob, and we look forward to you in a couple of weeks. So today is Wednesday, August 27th. Here are the current standings. Tampa Bay is leading the AL East by 5.5 games over the Red Sox, 16 over Baltimore, 19.5 over Toronto, and 25 over the Yankees. In the AL Central, the Kansas City Royals are in first place. The White Sox are a game and a half back. The Twins are 2 back. The Tigers are 4.5 back, and Cleveland is 19.5 back. In the AL West, the Los Angeles Angels lead the division by 4.5 games over Seattle, 9 over Houston, 18 over Sacramento, and 37 over Texas. In the NL East, we have the Philadelphia Phillies with a 19-game lead on the magic number of 12 over the Miami Marlins, a surging Marlins, 22.5 over Atlanta, 29 over the Mets, and 29.5 over the Nationals. In the NL Central, we see the Cincinnati Reds 2 games above Pittsburgh and Milwaukee, 5 above the Cardinals, and 15.5 over the Cubs. And in the National League West, we have the Giants with a 7.5 game lead over the Diamondbacks, 13 over Colorado, 18.5 over San Diego, and 19.5 over the Dodgers. Now, for the wild card spot in the National League, Pittsburgh and Milwaukee have the top 2 spots, and the Cardinals sit in the 3rd spot. So 4 teams in the NL Central are currently in the playoffs. Arizona is only 1 game back. The Rockies are 6.5 back. The Marlins are 7.5 back. And in the AL, we see Seattle in the first wild card spot by 11 games. Houston has a 6.5 game lead over Boston, who sits in the final wild card spot. The White Sox are a half game back. The Twins are 1 back. Your Sacramento A's are 2.5 back, and Detroit is 3.5 back. Now, I got a couple of questions that I am going to try to answer. The first one was how to reset the Tigers, or is it all downhill from here? Well, they have obviously struggled lately. They have, oh my goodness, look at their month of August. They are 5-19 in the month of August. How do you turn it around to get back into the playoffs? It's just been one of those struggles, and hopefully they are at a point where they have one more game here against Sacramento, and then they get to play 3 in Kansas City to end or August, and then we get into September. They play the Mets, the White Sox, the Yankees, Miami, Cleveland, Atlanta, Cleveland, and Boston. So they have a chance to turn it around. Maybe we need to fire the general manager. Just kidding, Jim, and see how that goes. But I can see the Tigers get back into the race here in September with their schedule, especially by playing, 3 against Kansas City and 3 against the White Sox. So the first 7 days of September will be a big tell for the Detroit Tigers. The second question I got was any concern in Philly with the Phillies just 19-16 after the All-Star game. They have not been playing their best ball as of late. That is for sure. But since the start of July, they are 27-20, which is not bad, but it's not Philadelphia Philly good. They're still leading about everything in the hitting categories in the National League, and they're in the top 5 in a lot of things in the pitching category. I think the Phillies are fine, and I think the Phillies are your favorites in the National League. I'd be worried about the Giants and in Cincinnati. They'll have a big say in what happens there in the National League. And the third question is something I was going to talk about is just the playoffs this year. There are some good races going. So if you go to the pennant chase in game right now, it says that the Tampa Bay Rays have a 97.5% chance of making the playoffs. If I remember right, well, maybe a month ago or two, somebody said that Tampa may not even make the playoffs. Well, I say the stats don't prove that out, and the Rays are just fine, and they have a great shot at winning their division. They have an easier schedule down the road than does Boston. And in National League Central, it says that Philadelphia has a 56.7% chance of making the playoffs. That Chicago has a 47.1%. The Twins have 39.1%, and the Tigers, well, they have 6.5% chance of making the playoffs right now. Let's see. Kansas City has a pretty tough schedule. Their average win percentage is .539 against the teams that are left. In comparison, the White Sox 454, the Twins 493, and Detroit 456. Now, as we turn our attention to the American League West, the Los Angeles Angels has a 100% chance of making the playoffs. That's pretty tough to beat. Also, Seattle has a 100% chance of making the playoffs. And Houston has a 99.7% chance of making the playoffs. That looks like you can book your tickets now. The Angels win percentage against teams that are left is .546. Seattle is at .516, and Houston's at .497. So is there a chance for the Angels to slip and fall out of first place at some point? I don't know. I don't see it happening, but it could happen. When we turn our attention, we'll talk about the wild card race here in just a minute. As we talk about the National League East, the Philadelphia Phillies have a 100% chance of making the playoffs, which with a magic number of 12. Miami, the surging Marlins, who have won 6 in a row, they have a 1.5% chance of making the playoffs. So there is a chance. In the NL Central, it says the Cincinnati Reds have a 99.2% chance of making the playoffs. The Pirates, 93.8%. The Brewers, 91.8%. And the Cardinals have a 61.8% chance of making the playoffs. The Reds' remaining schedule is a .482 percentage against. Pittsburgh, .484, so not really that much different. Milwaukee has a .519 win percentage against them. But the Cardinals, they're going to play teams that have an average win percentage of .550, 55%. That's going to make it tough on them. And then when we get out to the National League West, the Giants have a 99.8% chance of making the playoffs. That's pretty darn good. And the Arizona Diamondbacks have a 51.1% chance of making the playoffs. And they're up by 7.5 games. So that division is starting to look like it might be out of sight, but we'll see. The win percentage left for the Giants is 48, .480, and for the Diamondbacks, .503. So that's going to make it tough on Arizona to catch them. But when we turn our attention to the wild card race, Pittsburgh, 93.8% chance. Their win percentage against them remaining is .484. The Brewers, 91.8%, and their win percentage is .519. That's going to be tough to maintain that advantage. Next is St. Louis at 61.8%, and their win percentage against them left is .550. And then Arizona has a 51.1% chance, and their win percentage against them is .503 that's left. They also list the Colorado Rockies with a 0.9% chance of making the playoffs, and the Miami Marlins, who have a 1.5% chance of making the playoffs. So let's turn our attention back to the American League. And as I told you before, it says Seattle has pretty much clinched the playoff spot. They have a 100% chance of making the playoffs. Houston, 99.7%. They are 6.5 games above Boston, who sits in the third place spot, and they have a 44.5% chance of the playoff spot. The White Sox have a 47.1% of the playoff spot. The Twins at 39.1%. The A's have an 8.9% chance, and Detroit has a 6.5% chance. Seattle has a pretty tough schedule, 516, Houston 497, Boston 485, the White Sox 454, which is probably why they have the percentage advantage over Boston, Minnesota at 493. Your Sacramento A's have a 538 win percentage against them the rest of the way, and Detroit 456. Now, it's not looking good for your A's to make the playoffs, but I guess that's why we play the games. You just never know. So the final question that I was asked this week is about the Miami Marlins. Red hot after the All-Star break, could they sneak into the final wild card spot battle with their kind of friendly schedule? Well, could they? Uh, Maybe, but are they a team that actually has a legitimate chance? And they're 7.5 back at this point, and they're 8 games under 500. I think right now they should be looking just to break even at 500, but you never know. They can continue to be hot. They end the month with a game here versus Atlanta and then 4 at the Mets. And then as they dig into September, they got Washington, and then they got a 3-game set with Philadelphia, then Washington, and then Detroit, Colorado, and Texas, and then another 3-game set against the Phillies, and to end it with 3-game series against the Mets. So could they do it? I guess they could, but I'm not seeing them getting back into the race. But I do see them getting up to that 500 mark, which will be very impressive from where they started. They started off April at 10-16. So at the end of April, they were 12-19. And then in May, they went 9-17. And then in June, they went 11-15. July, they had a winning record at 13-12. And in August, 17-7. That is a pretty impressive record. And I wish them well. I hope they can do it, but I really don't see them being able to complete it. Acuna has been, after his extension. Let's see, what kind of an extension did he get? I don't remember. 6 years, $198 million with the player option in the last year. Going to be averaging $35 million a year from his age 28 to 30, and then he's going to make $31 million from 31 to 33 years old. That is pretty impressive, and wish him well, but he's not the same player that we see in actual Major League Baseball. So since I'm here by myself, we're going to talk a little bit about the Sacramento A's. We've been playing well as of late, and so we're hoping that's going to continue on. Our team chemistry is ecstatic, which I'm happy about. It finally got up there. Our pitching has been very good, even with all of our guys on the injured list. And then as we turned, our hitters are still struggling. I just can't figure out why my hitters struggle so much. Part of it probably has to do with the park, but none of them are really on fire. I mean, Cowart is my, best average hitter at 289, but we get people like Profor, who's batting 196 under the Mendoza line, Alvarez 208, Munkin 218. Fustini's only batting 241. Carlson is batting 250, who's kind of been my MVP this year with how well he has played. Mitchell at 253, Martinez at 272, CJ Abrams, who just came off the injured list, is at 273. So there's always a chance of moving forward. My thing is I'm going to struggle with what do I do in September when we can expand rosters by 2. Eli De La Cruz, right now he is hurt for 3 more days, but he's hitting 301 with a 399 on base percentage in AAA and in 153 at bat. So there's a chance he gets a call up. He needs to improve a little bit in his home runs and eye, but he may do that at the major league level. And then I'm debating on Jacob Speckner. Uh, and this year, he is batting 261 with 363 on base percentage in AAA. Um, he looks like he's just about fully developed. He has a little bit maybe home run power, but he's never going to be a home run hitter. Uh, but he looks ready to call up too. But I'm debating on whether I call up Joe Rock, who I got in a trade with the Cardinals, um, and give him some starts here at the end of the year to see how he might handle big league pitching. He has done well since coming over. He's 2-2 with a 3.19 ERA, and so he's striking out a batter an inning. And so if he could improve his movement a little bit, he would be dangerous. So there's my couple options to go with. Pretty soon in September, at some point, we're going to get to sign international free agents. I hope you've been looking at them and scouting them, or well, maybe I hope you haven't been, so I can sign them all. But there is that. And as you have noticed, there is one person I have not mentioned, and I'm not going to mention his name that Rob would mention. I probably would have already mentioned it before now. But the Kansas City Royals are leading the National League Central, and that's going to be a tough road down, at the end of the season. The White Sox have been on fire. They are in June and July, they are 29 and 19 over the last almost 2 months. And they're getting back in this race, and they actually took the lead for a little bit, and they've kind of given it back when they got swept by the Twins. But then they turned around and they beat Kansas City both games. And so if they can win tonight, they'll only be a half game out of the division, and they'll end the month with a 4-game set against the Yankees. Who else should we talk about? Boston, who is right now sitting in the playoff spot. They have probably the longest list of minor leaguers on the injured list. Uh, Pashini is starting to get healthy, and he may go on a rehab start or two, or put him in the bullpen and get him healthy. Uh, Jason Frost, he should be ready in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure if he'll help their bullpen or not, but over the last couple months, they're 23 and 24. So they're kind of sliding a little bit, and for my sake, for the A's sake, I hope they continue that slide. Sorry, Brett, and hopefully I can turn that 7% chance or 8%, whatever it is, into an actual playoff. I don't see that coming. Uh, I'll be happy to get to 85 wins. In the National League, the Phillies obviously are going to win the NL East. They got a magic number of 12, and they're 5 games behind the Angels for the best record in baseball. I don't see them catching that, but they're still, to me, the class of the National League. I love the National League Central. It's always competitive, and it's no changing now. But at least this year, the top 4 teams are all over 500, and that's going to make this race down the stretch interesting, because right now the Reds, Pirates, and Brewers, and I think the Cardinals would make the playoffs. Let me look. Yeah. As of right now, the Cardinals would be the last team in the playoffs right now. So 4 teams would make it out of the National League Central. I'm looking forward to that race and talking more about that race as we continue going. And in the National League West, we got the San Francisco Giants, who is led by Mr. John Hines, and they are playing great. They're 28 and 19. Well, if I go back since the beginning of May, they're 36, 64, and 37. If I, oh wait, I forgot to add one. 27, 37, 44, 54. But still, they started off the year 12 and 19, and they have stormed back. They have the best pitching staff in the National League, bar none. And their hitting is like the A's. Maybe it's something to do with the Bay Area. They have a hard time hitting also. But maybe Mr. Hines, you and I will meet in the World Series and have a Bay Area World Series. I think that would be the best outcome. Right, Matt? Can you make that happen for us? I'm interested in the wild card races in both leagues. In the National League, there are one, two, three, four, well, really four teams battling for three spots. But that's going to be an interesting battle. Who gets in what order? But in the American League, there's one, two, three, four. There's five of us fighting for one spot. And as of right now, I would say that spot's going to go to whoever does not win the AL Central between the Royals and White Sox. Sorry, Rocky, I don't see you making the playoffs or getting back into that division, even though you're only two out right now. Tigers, boy, I hope they can turn around and make a race out of this. I don't see it happening. They're 1-9 in their last 10 games, and they are just struggling. All right. Well, this is going to be a short one this week since I'm on here all by myself. Next week is the week that we are off, but if somebody wants to do something, all you got to do is let me know and we'll try to see if we can figure something out. But we will be back in 2 weeks, and I hope you have a great baseball season.